Ms. Sorgan, do you wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have me cut? Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the jury. That's what you are now. You are the jury. As Judge Hager has just instructed you, it's your job to listen to the facts in this case as they are presented. And as Mr. Nelson told you during voir dire, how we do that is through the testimony of witnesses in that witness stand right over there, and through the introduction of exhibits. 18 years ago, 18-year-old Anita Knudsen was stabbed to death in Minot, North Dakota. Anita had dreams of becoming a teacher. She was a college student at MSU. And when she was a student at MSU, her roommate was Nichole Thomas Rice, known as Nicole Thomas at that time. The state intends to show you evidence. There was bad blood between these two girls, and their living situation was highly toxic. The state intends to show you evidence that on the early morning hours of June 3rd, 2007, Nichole Thomas Rice stabbed Anita Knudsen twice in the chest, killing her. You're going to hear from a number of witnesses who established this timeline. Now, I did a trial back in September. It was another murder trial. And my trial partner made a statement during closing that's echoed with me for a while, where he said, "Crime loves silence." Now, in that particular case, we had a defendant who had killed someone who could have blown the lid off of a pretty big drug operation. But that phrase stuck with me. Crime loves silence. As you have heard, this has been a cold case. Ms. Rice was not charged with this crime until 2022, 15 years after it happened. It's a bit of the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady. Law enforcement took the time to make sure we're the right person. There were some new developments that occurred over the years. You're going to hear testimony with regards to that. But as Mr. Nelson also told you during voir dire, there's some information that was looked back on in a different light. Because, as we all know, sometimes when you hear something in the instant, it means something a little bit more significant once you look back on it. I think that's what they meant then. Or, oh, that really is why that was important. You're going to hear whispers from the past across the void of time that led to these charges. Silent no more. And we are concluded with this case. We are confident that you are going to find Nichole Thomas Rice guilty of the murder of Anita Knudsen. Thank you.
Mr. Sand, do you wish to make an opening statement for the defense? You may proceed. Thank you, Ms. Sorgan.
You guys hear me all right? Wonderful. First of all, thank you for being here. I know we said that during jury selection. This is a huge commitment. I'm sure it's very stressful. taking a lot of time out of your lives, and we really appreciate it. Now, as the state's attorney said, you're going to hear a lot of evidence in this case. You're going to see a lot of evidence. You're going to hear a lot of testimony. At the end of it, I disagree with the state. You're going to know after you hear that Nichole did not kill Anita. Now, what happened to Anita is terrible. It's awful. It's every family's nightmare. It's every parent's nightmare. It's every town's nightmare. And Anita died in 2007. We're sitting here in 2025. Now, we talked in jury selection about what changed between now and then. And I'm going to show you what changed. I'm going to tell you what changed. The witnesses are going to show you what changed. It was pressure from a TV show, a nationally syndicated program that came in, worked with the Minot Police Department, didn't dig up anything of substance, but put an incredible amount of pressure on the state's attorney's office, the police department, to bring charges in this case. Now, you're going to hear from the original officers. I anticipate you'll hear from them. They're on the state's witness list. Those are good officers. They worked this case really hard. And they followed up with a lot of people. And they didn't charge Nichole. They didn't charge Nichole because she didn't do it. Nichole got charged after a national media circus descended on Minot. You're going to hear evidence, just like the state said. You're going to hear evidence that they reached out to the FBI to find out who did this. They didn't say Nichole. And I'll tell you who they said. They said it pointed to a man named Devin Hall. And I'm going to come back to that. Every time the police called Nichole, she showed up. She talked to him. She said, "How can I help?" Not everybody did that. Now, this Devin Hall, he was a 17-year-old kid from the Fort Peck Reservation out in Montana. The evidence is going to show you he traveled to Minot. That's where the murder happened. The evidence is going to show you he admitted to possession of the murder weapon, which was a locking knife, like a buck knife, that had an Indian head on one side. At one time, it had Indian heads on two sides, but one fell off. And the evidence is going to show you that when the police showed that knife to Devin, he said, "Is this your knife?" And he's going to say, "I've had that knife." And you say, "How do you know?" "It's missing the Indian head on the other side." You're going to find out that Devin Hall was caught breaking into other women's apartments that weekend through a window. Please listen to that. The state's going to tease that evidence out too, but they're going to try to change how it sounds. It's also important that you're going to look at someone's behavior. Devin Hall, the evidence is going to show you, continued this kind of behavior. And he had implications, not just back on his home reservation, but federally as well. You're going to hear testimony regarding a suspect that was the lead suspect in this case that ran from the apartment complex that Anita and Nichole lived in. You're going to hear this man was described as a 6'2" Native American young man who was sprinting at 7 o'clock in the morning from that apartment complex to the next apartment complex with blood on his t-shirt. You're going to hear from officer reports. You're going to hear that they worked with the FBI, like I told you, and you're going to hear from other investigations, some of our own, that point to Devin Hall. That's where all the fingers point in this case. On top of that, there was other work that was done in this case that showed other suspects that were much more culpable than Nichole. There was the maintenance man you're going to hear about. The maintenance man who in the morning showed up, found a broken into apartment with curtains and a curtain rod strewn outside that he threw back in. That maintenance man was interviewed, and on New Year's Eve, the next year around, he committed suicide. And the night before he committed suicide, he talked to a friend and said he had something very heavy on his heart. You're going to hear about someone else, the prom date of Miss Knudsen. This prom date ended up moving into the same apartment as Miss Knudsen, same apartment building, went on to continue to be a sleuth throughout Miss Knudsen's, after her murder, and has been sitting in many of these court hearings as we go. He was a prime suspect. The cops describe him as obsessed with Anita. You're going to hear that Nichole had an alibi while this went on. She wasn't there. You're going to hear she did not do this. This is a media sensationalized case. And that's the person they want. They want the roommate, the college roommate. That sells. What doesn't sell is somebody who's dead or an indigent person that lives out in the middle of nowhere in Montana. Nichole sells. And that's what's going on here. And I'm sorry that I get impassioned, but I'm sure you understand the seriousness of this. The state's going to talk to you about a toxic roommate relationship. And I know we discussed this in jury instructions. Siblings, roommates, they fight. There's issues about an unplugged fish tank, about an alarm clock that wouldn't stop going off. The evidence is going to show you people like Nichole don't kill their roommates over that kind of stuff. They don't put knives through their sternums. The evidence is going to show you Nichole Rice didn't do this. This entire case toward Nichole has been an abortion of justice, and it can stop now. And Anita deserves justice. But justice is out there. It's not here. This is a show. Thank you very much.